Dopamine, also known as a reward system, is a system what makes us feel good. Dopamine is triggered when you typically do something rewarding or fulfilling, such as exercise. Endorphins are released, which then go on to interact with the receptors in your brain that reduce your perception of pain. Endorphins also trigger a positive feeling in the body similar to that of morphine. So you may be wondering by now, what is dopamine? Well, dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. Your body makes it, and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. That's why it's sometimes called a chemical messenger. Dopamine plays a role in how we feel pleasure. It's a big part of our unique human ability to think and plan. It helps us strive, focus, and find things interesting. Your body spreads it along 4 major pathways in the brain. Like most other systems in the body, you don't notice it until there's a problem. Too much or too little of it can lead to a vast range of health issues. Some are serious, like the Parkinson's disease. Others are much less dire. Dopamine is made in the brain through a 2-step process. First, it changes the amino acid tyrosine to a substance called dopa, and then into dopamine. It affects many parts of your behaviour and physical functions such as learning, motivation, sleep, mood, and much more. When talking about dopamine, drugs is always a #1 topic. All drugs affect our dopamine system, making us achieve that feel good way faster than normal, due to the several different chemicals contained within drugs. Drugs such as cocaine can cause a big, fast increase of dopamine in your brain that satisfies your natural reward system in a big way. But repeated drug use also raises the threshold for this kind of pleasure. This means you need to take more to get the same high. Meanwhile, drugs make your body less able to produce dopamine naturally. This leads to emotional lows when you're sober. The drugs makes it harder to produce natural dopamine like you normally would, so this leads to drug addiction to avoid depression from dopamine deficiency. Usually, you can tell if you have a dopamine deficiency due to reduced alertness, difficulty concentrating, less motivation and enthusiasm, and much more. So, how do drugs even affect the dopamine system, you may wonder? This is how. The early draw of drug use for most people is a pleasurable feeling they get whilst high, a feeling that results from electric stimulation of specific areas of the brain that make up what is collectively called the brain's reward center. The neurotransmitter that unlocks the electrical stimulation of these areas is called dopamine, a neurotransmitter that is strongly associated with the feelings of pleasure and reward. The purpose for this mechanism is to encourage life-sustaining behaviors, such as eating when hungry, by producing a pleasurable sensation when the necessary behavior happens. Alcohol and other mood-altering drugs artificially create this effect and do so more efficiently and intensely than natural rewards. Research has shown that the drugs most commonly abused by humans, including opiates, alcohol, nicotine, amphetamines, and cocaine, create a neurochemical reaction that significantly increases the amount of dopamine that is released by neurons in the brain's reward center. The result of this dopamine overflow is the feeling of being high. So, by now you may be wondering, how do we make our dopamine levels rise without the use of drugs? Well, one thing you can start is by eating lots of protein. Proteins are made up of smaller building blocks called amino acids. There are 23 different amino acids, some of which your body can synthesize, and others that you must get from food. One amino acid, called tyrosine, plays a critical role in the production of dopamine. Enzymes within your body are capable of turning tyrosine into dopamine, so having good tyrosine levels is important for dopamine production. Another thing you can do is exercise often. Exercise is recommended for boosting endorphin levels and improving your mood. Improvements in mood can be seen after as little as 10 minutes of aerobic activity, but tend to be highest after at least 20 minutes. But not only can exercise increase dopamine levels, quite the opposite can too. Yes, sleep can improve dopamine levels. When dopamine is released in the brain, it creates feelings of alertness and wakefulness. Animal studies show that dopamine is released in large amounts in the morning and when it's time to wake up, and that level naturally falls in the evening when it's time to go sleep. Finally, another thing you can do is listen to music. Listening to music can be a fun way to simulate dopamine release in the brain. Several brain imaging studies have found that listening to music increases activity in the reward and pleasure areas of the brain, which are rich with dopamine receptors. In summary, dopamine is a very important part of us as humans, and without it, we will not feel many emotions. Dopamine is a neurotransmitter which makes us feel rewards and activates our feel-good system. So without this, we would all be lifeless zombies roaming around aimless. Thanks for watching anyway guys. Please like, comment, share and subscribe.